In Agile, we usually keep track of UX design and development work with user stories. In some cases, our design stories intend to include tasks and time for content. But when we share stories with design, sometimes we end up underestimating the time it takes to really create, maintain, and improve our content. Here are 5 types of content-focused user stories to include in your backlog so that content doesn't get lost, rushed, or skipped over in the Agile development process. First, use content spikes to research upcoming backlog items. Content spikes reserve time for you to plan and conduct user research or to collaborate with a research partner so that you're well informed when it's time to create content for your backlog items. Content spikes should also account for the time it takes to analyze and synthesize data after user research is complete. For example, let's say we work for a bank who is developing content for first-time homebuyers researching mortgages. A content spike might look like this. As a content creator, I need to understand the questions that first-time homebuyers have about mortgages so that I can provide the right answers. You can also use separate user stories for content creation tasks. Now, these stories should focus on the user needs that you uncovered in the research. They need to represent the time it will take for you to write and develop the content that truly addresses those needs. For example, as a first-time homebuyer, I need to understand the mortgage application process so that I feel less intimidated when looking at homes. You also want to include user stories for content review activities. Now, these stories will give you time to review content with stakeholders such as marketing, legal, or even with your designers and your development partners. It's good to estimate some extra time for revisions and to double-check things like your writing style, tone of voice, and accessibility. For example, as a content creator, I need to review my content with operations, marketing, and compliance so that I know it's accurate and on brand. You'll also want to have user stories for content publication and management. Now, these stories account for the time it will take content managers to prepare, schedule, publish, review, and even retire content. For example, as a content manager, I need to write quality metadata so that our content appears in search engine results pages. And last but not least, create user stories for ongoing content testing and optimization. These stories will account for testing with real users beyond the initial launch. They also ensure ongoing content optimization and improvement activities remain in the backlog for future releases. So for example, as a content creator, I need to understand when and how first-time homebuyers communicate with the bank so that I can add support copy. Quality content starts with user research and strong user stories before any design or development work begins. If we don't plan and properly estimate for content, it will inevitably get skipped over. So make sure to account for all of these important content activities in your Agile development process.